Welcome to my YouTube channel, Mark at A Matter of Truth. All of my Bible teaching songs are based upon my sound biblical Bible studies on my website at thechurchofthefirstborn.net.
Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're jumping into a brand new explainer, and we're going to uncover how a single, seemingly minor linguistic detail in the Bible has literally massive theological implications. We're unpacking a really fascinating source document today. It's a detailed verse-by-verse study that honestly reads a bit like a linguistic detective story. We're going to look closely at how the translation of just one ancient word has created this massive ripple effect across centuries of religious thought.
I mean, think about it. Can one single added word actually change an entire religion? That central question really sets the stage for everything we're about to unpack. Because the source material we're examining today argues that yes, absolutely, translation choices can fundamentally shift the foundational beliefs of millions of people. You see, it's not just about grammar. It's about how we understand the very nature of the universe itself. Okay, so to get what's going on here, the author points us directly to a very famous passage from the King James Version of the Bible, Colossians 1:20. Now pay close attention to the word things. In the traditional King James text, this word is specifically printed in italics. It seems like a totally minor formatting choice, right? But according to our source, this specific italicized word is actually the linchpin of a massive theological debate. Which brings us right to part 1, the italicized mystery. So why in the world is a font style the primary suspect in our investigation? Well, you know, when you see italics in the King James Version, it's actually a formatting tool used by the original translators to indicate words that they added themselves. These words were inserted just to help the English flow a bit better, but they do not actually exist in the original ancient Greek manuscripts. It seems helpful enough, but the author of our source zeroes right in on this. Because you have to ask, does inserting the word things just smooth out the reading, or does it entirely rewrite the original intent of the author? Let's move into part 2, comparing the translations.
To really understand the impact of this edition, we have to look at how different scholars have handled this text over the years. This comparison brilliantly illustrates the core argument. In the standard version, adding the word things naturally makes a reader envision Jesus as the literal creator of physical matter, planets, stars, trees, literally everything. But when you check out the literal Greek translation, it reads, "In him is created the all." Without that single added word, the entire context completely shifts from the creation of physical matter to the creation of a specific group or concept inside of him.
Let's break this down a bit more. According to the source, both the traditional King James Version and the Jehovah's Witnesses New World Translation actually add words, things, and other things, respectively. But the literal translation, it sticks strictly to the original Greek syntax, reconcile the all. The author views these additions in the KJV and NWT as heavily biased translations that end up pushing a very specific theological narrative.
And this brings us to a really fascinating crossroads. What actually happens to our understanding of the text if we just completely strip away these added words and read exactly what's there? To solve this mystery, the author argues we basically have to bypass the English translators entirely and look at the exact ancient Greek words used in the oldest manuscripts.
So let's jump to part 3, the Greek word pause. Let's look at the foundational evidence the author brings up from the Dictionary of Ancient Biblical Greek. The author emphasizes the definition of the Greek word pas, that's Strong's number 3956. It simply means all, any, every, or the whole. Notice anything missing? The word things is entirely absent from that definition. There's nothing inherently physical or material about the word pas. It's really just a collective identifier.
But wait, there is another crucial piece of Greek grammar here. The word ho, Strong's number 3588. This is the Greek definite article, basically meaning the. The source points out that this definite article is actually present in the Greek manuscript, but is often completely ignored or mistranslated by the KJV translators in this passage. So when you combine the definite article ho with pause, and you don't add any extra English fluff, the literal translation is beautifully simple yet profound, the all. By strictly following the Greek definitions we just looked at, the author arrives at this literal translation for Colossians 1:20, and through him to reconcile the all into him, making peace. Notice how fundamentally this changes the actual target of the reconciliation. We're no longer talking about God reconciling physical objects or entire planets. We are talking about reconciling the all.
And that leads us perfectly into part 4,
the theological impact.
This is honestly the most fascinating part of our whole explainer, the massive theological ripple effect this single translation choice creates. Changing all things to the all is not just some dry grammar lesson. Because if it's not physical planets and stars, what in the world does the all actually refer to? Well, the author argues it refers specifically to people. Believers in Jesus, the body of the church, and what the Bible calls God's new creation, created in righteousness. In this specific view, Jesus isn't the creator of the physical universe, but rather the head and the origin point of a spiritual new creation, the church.
And right here is where the paths of mainstream theology totally diverge, based literally on that single word. On one side, relying on the translation all things, you have the Trinitarian view, which holds that Jesus pre-existed and created the physical universe. But on the other side, relying on the literal translation, the all, you have the biblical Unitarian view, which is what the author holds. This view posits that Jesus is the head of the new creation, the church, but not the literal creator of the physical cosmos. The author claims that adding the word things introduces an unfair Trinitarian bias right into the English text.
Now, to fully grasp where the source is coming from, we need to quickly understand biblical Unitarianism. This is the theological view that Almighty God the Father is the sole creator of the universe and that Jesus is his created human son. This exact perspective is the cornerstone of the author's argument. It suggests that Jesus did not pre-exist in eternity past to create the universe. Instead, God the Father created everything and then later brought forth Jesus for a very, very specific purpose.
According to the study we're analyzing, this step-by-step framework explains God's purpose for Jesus. Step 1, Yahweh creates the human Son of Man. Step 2, God elevates him, giving him dominion to become a Lord and King. And step 3, Jesus is used to judge God's enemies, including Satan and fallen angels. In the author's view, this explains exactly why Jesus was elevated to reconcile the all into the church, without him needing to be the literal, eternal creator of the physical cosmos. Getting the translation of Colossians 1:20 right is absolutely essential to supporting this framework.
Which brings us to the author's ultimate conclusion. Translation shapes theology. Relying on translations that add words, even if it's done with the absolute best of intentions for readability, can inadvertently shift a reader's entire religious foundation. I mean, it's wild. A single italicized word like things can be the literal difference between viewing someone as the eternal creator of the universe or the highly exalted head of a new spiritual church. It's absolutely astonishing how a tiny grammatical choice can have such a profound butterfly effect.
And it leaves us with this incredible final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Does translation shape theology, or does theology shape translation? When you're sitting down and reading ancient texts, are you truly discovering the original author's intent, or are you just looking through the theological lens of a translator who decided to add a word to make it read better? It's a fascinating question, and one that completely changes how we interact with historical documents. So what do you think? Keep asking questions, keep digging into the texts, and I'll catch you in the next one. Please read the in-depth Bible studies on my websites at AMatterOfTruth and thechurchofthefirstborn.net. And if you like this Bible teaching song video, please share the link with others. Thanks for watching, and may God bless you richly for sharing the true gospel. Brother Mark.